Hello, how you guys doing? Hope you're having a good holiday. Hope just sitting here just watching TV and chilling, making videos. And I was watching something very interesting I had on. I recorded, but I'm going to show you my recording because my videos when I like made like a couple thousands of like 4,000 videos. Like I like 4,000, but I made only like 600 videos. But in this one video, it's going to talk about the status about population due on race. And I know, and like the one guy mentioned is some people don't like to talk about it. It's a very sensitive topic, but this one is just talking about the status of race. And I made this video a while back because someone gave these 19 black families a problem with having a black town in a black area because there's certain places in the United States, believe it or not, there are people, majority of the people stay among their own people. Uh, Whether it's the East Indian community, I've seen an Eastern Indian community here in Ohio, Middle Eastern community, a Hispanic community, mostly Somalian community. You have then you have your areas where it's black mixed with white, and then you have a predominantly rich upper white area, and then you have the rural areas. It's mostly white, and this is a fact. And some people feel like they feel insecure about bringing this point out. So I'm going to show you my video, then I'm going to take you to his video, and we just doing stats here. And this is why this is a response. And I made this about a year or so ago, but this is going to back up. He's the main creator. He got a much better channel than I do. Only, but this talking only about stats. Being race because he wants to have an all black town. So there is an all white town. The next town is called the Tens. This is called the 10 whitest cities in America. The second is called Billings, Montana. Billings, Montana. Job is 8.10. Housing is 8. Safety is 3. Amenities is 9. Affordability is 7. Diversity is 7. Education is 8.5. Community is 9. Overall, this is 8. Now this has come out of the website. So so if a person is Caucasian or white, this is what if they want to choose to live in an area where there's not too many different people, diversities of religion, and basically not too much racial. Okay, they said the population here is 109,000. The median homes is 212,000. The median income is 51,000. The rent is 861. The poverty is 10.2%. The unemployment is 3.2. This is in Billings, Montana. The population. Here's pictures of Billings. So this is in light to the article that because there was a lot of backlash of some people who gave these people a hard time for choosing, saying that they own 97 acres of land, and they said that they wouldn't. They said it was kind of wrong to name. They want something for their own area. They want for their own people, but yet you have a town like Billings, Montana, is predominantly considered one of the whitest towns in the United States. And this is in Montana. And you have a higher Caucasian population here. Here's downtown Billings. It's nice, beautiful view. Yellowstone Park. Billingstone Mountain. This is what responds to the people that had a backlash of the people getting the property in Georgia and 19 black families. And then there were choosers being,
that was a few people gave him a hard time, say that was kind of racist, but and they said, well, we had all white time, 9% in Cedar Rapids, and Iowa, which is white compared to the white population, is 108,150 people. So there you have Alaska, 2%, Asian 3.4%, Hawaiian 0.2%, Hispanic 3.7%. So you have a higher white population. They own a lot of the land up there, a lot of property up there. 8.2% of in Cedar Rapids. African American is 6.9% of all these. This is all the nationalities around Cedar Rapids, Idaho, and a lot of people they talk about the educational status. A lot of people have a bachelor's degree. There's some people have high school degree. And so, K through 9, some college. This tells you all that right here. Okay.
I meant diploma, not degree.
So why is, because you need to understand the United States. Because when people insinuate stuff like that, it's a good thing to do is back it up with facts. Okay. The next place is Sterling, Michigan. Sterling, Michigan, Heights, Michigan. Another predominantly place, which is it's a city up there. Population 133,000, low 4.0 unemployment with 11.2% poverty. Rents $1,000. Okay. Let me see. Here's Sterling, Michigan. Which is right off of not too far from the main 94, well before you get into Detroit. But all your nearest towns, Royal Oaks, Michigan, Birmingham, Michigan, 15,000, so forth and so forth. Alright. Population 2017, 132,000, went up about 129,000. So it's like it's an increase about 4.7%, 0.4%. Tells you gender, female male ratio, crime up there. Okay, here's another, so property, burglary, kind of little bit, not too larceny, things like that. The population up there in Sterling Heights, Michigan is 108,245 white people. 5.7% of African Americans, which is 7,531 people. And American Indians, 266. Asians, 7.5%, 9,981 people. Hispanic, 2.6%, 3,443 people, and other 2,617%, other 377. So, tells you the high school rate up there. So this is pretty predominant. Okay, let's break it down to, if you want to break it down to race, it's 81.7%, which is 75%, 61% of Sterling Heights. African Americans is a low population in Sterling Heights, Michigan, 13.7%. Again, it shows you all the other races. It shows you the degrees, the educational status over here. Tells you how many people make the certain percentage of how money. They make a pretty good income studying up there. But this is, so if you're looking for a town, well, there's somewhat diversity. Then Sterling Heights is your place. The next town we want to speak on is Spokane, Washington. Okay, Spokane, Washington. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this is to the response of the people that made that still towns that still are predominantly white. That's why it's listed with the whitest cities in America. Spokane tells you the crime rate up here. The population is 200,804 people. Median home is 174,000. Rents $842. Property rate 18.33%. Unemployment 6%. And this is some pictures and large. Okay. Tells you Washington. Some of the little areas that surround Spokane is Airway Heights, Washington, Cheney, Washington, 11,962. Spokane Valley, Washington, 9670. 30 Washington, 300. County Washington, 6,000. Mealy, 6,000. 870. Horse Farms is 6,514. Towns in Town and Country, Washington, 4,714. It's been from '09. It's been 206,514, but it jumped up to like a 0.9% in a couple 3 years ago. 214,804 people. Okay, tell us about that. Spokane, female 53%, males 48.7%. What kind of females live there? The violent crime looks pretty average. Say 98 compared to 368, a little bit high. Murder rate's low, 3.7, compared to the rest of the U.S. is 5.0. Robbery is a little bit high, 136.1 to 73%. Aggregate rate of assault is a little bit high there. Property crime is a little bit high there. Larceny. Okay. Now here's coming down to tells you about the education system. Now breaking down the ratio part. So it's 174,789 white people. African Americans 2.1%, which means it's 474,000 African Americans. 1.5%, which is 3,255 American Indian. Asian is 2.6%, which leads to 5,536 people. Hawaiian 0.8%, 1,694. Other is 1%, 5.1%, and the Hispanic population is 6.5%, which is 13,902 people, which means they have a higher white population in Spokane, Washington, which is 8.4%, 69% in Washington, radio 61% in the U.S. African American is 2.1%, 3.6% in Washington, and that's in the states 2.1. In the USA is 12.3%. American Indians 1.5, Asian 2.6, 8.3, 5.4. Hawaiian 0.8, 0.6, 3.2, and other tells about down here that tells you the education and the degree. So this is Spokane, Washington. So you have a higher population, a white population here that makes pretty decent income. The population of income, every stats. Overall, people love Washington. They love it up there. Okay, the next area is Sioux City, Dakota. Jobs there. This is respond. So as you see that based on your ethnic background, depends on who you are, you have more. If your majority of the population of white in this country, you have a better population of seeing more of your people. So the population is 174,151. Medium household 175,100. The rent 791. The rent income 59,000. Unemployment is 3.5%, which is 11.3% in poverty. All right then. Well, let me pull this back a little bit. Hopefully you can see it. All right then. Now here's Sioux Falls. This again. If you go to this website, Harrisburg, and South Dakota towns, they have 5,000. Harrisburg, South Dakota. South Dakota is 5,000. Brandon, South Dakota, 9,000. Hartford is 3,000. 2,000. 3,000. And Canton, South Dakota is 3,000 people. Population jumped from since 09, it was 148,848 people back in 2009. Today, not today, but in 2017, it was 174,151 people, which is 2.2 change in South Dakota. So it sounds like it's a pretty safe place to live. The violent crime is a little bit edge average USA. The female ratio is higher, about the same with the male and female ratio. Murder is lower in South Dakota. Aggravated assault is a little bit above. Robbery is a little bit below than the USA. Property crime is about the same. Burglary is about the same. Okay. So when you get down to here, as far as the ethnic race and ethnicities of South Sioux Falls, the white population is 141,497 people. The African American is 5,009%. 10,300 African American live throughout Sioux City, Iowa. American Indian is 2.3, which is 4,661. Asian is 4,429, 2.5%. Other is 0.3%. Other Hispanic is 3.3%, which is 90,133 people. Then when you look at overall, the population, but if you still go down, and so it's 8.2%. It's 8.2% white, which is about the same way as in all of South Dakota, which is 61%. African American is 5.9%, 1.8% compared to 12.3%. American Indian is 2.3%, 8.4%, 0.7%. Asia is 2.5%, 1.4%, 5.5%. And other Hawaiians, no Hawaiians there, no other people, 1.2 points. Hispanic is 3.7 there and 17.6 there. It gives you the highlight. Tells you the admitted income here. Let me see. So this is the actual ratio, and so really there's a higher, whether you go to any one of these cities, you have a higher population of white people that own a good portion of the land. The next town we see is Scottsdale, Arizona. Scottsdale, Arizona, 8.5% jobs, 8.5% housing, amenities, and 8.4 affordability, 6 diversity on an 8, 9.5 commute on 8%. All right. Cost of living, I guess the picture's still trying to pull it up. Cost of living, population 246,000. It's a little expensive to move out there. The rent's like you rent $1,284. You have to make 84. The average income is $455,000 for a home out there. 3.7% poverty, 8.2%. Okay. Let's see. Scottsdale, Arizona. Some pictures of Scottsdale, outskirts of town, Fort Hills, Arizona, 24,000. River, 15,000. Paradise Valley, 14,000. Cave Creek is 5,000. Here's sorry, I hope it's not. Hope it's coming clear. That breaks down the population. They had a population 2009 to 20. They had 218,770 people. They moved up to a 246,000 people. It's a 2.8%. Okay. We break it down. Violent crime is much lower up there. Male ratio is the same. Robberies is much lower. The aggravated assaults a little bit lower. So yeah, larceny and burglary. Okay, here we get down to the nitty gritty. Okay, so 197,630 white people that live there. African Americans 1.7, which is 4,271 people. American Indian 1,731 people. Asian 4.8%, 11,851 people is Asian. Hispanic 25,475 people, 10.4%, 1.8%. So yeah, there's a little Hispanic. You can see outside the white population, which the white population still dominate Scottsdale, Arizona. So here it is. So the white population in Scottsdale is 80%, 56% in all of Arizona, 55%, 61.1% in the U.S. African American is 1.7%, 4.1%, 12.3% in all of American Indian, 3.9%, zeros or 7%, Asian 4.8, 3.2, 5.4, and so on and so on. Education over there. Hispanic is 31,000, 1.1%, 17.8% is Hispanic. Tells you that less than income 0.2%. The highest is 7.2. Those that make 200,000 more. But this is the white. This is the population of people making it. The general income. Here's the pictures of some place you want to go to if you live in Arizona. If you go out near Arizona. All right. The last but not least, we're gonna go to Lincoln, Nebraska. Lincoln, Nebraska. All right here. Jobs at 8.7%. Housing diversity 8. Housing 8. Sector 5. Education 8.5. And so on and so on. Okay then. Let's see. Total crime is not too bad. Cost of living, they give it lower than the average, 0.9%. Overall cost of living is rated 93. Tells you about the capitals, 280 people. Medium households, 161,000. Rents, 822 for rent if you live there. Rent. Property is 4.2%. Get a home is 161,000. A lot cheaper. Nebraska, $200. 3.6 unemployment rate. Lincoln, Nebraska. It's an aviation, a couple pictures of aviation. Center, okay. Tells you more pictures. Called. The nearest town is Cerisco, Nebraska, 1,000. Hickville, Nebraska, 2,000. Waverly, Nebraska, 3,000. This is the population. Eagle, Nebraska, 988 people. Milford, Nebraska, 327 people. And the big town among these little towns is Crete, Nebraska, which is 7,050 people. Right in Nebraska. They had, in 2009, about a little with each city. Okay, male-female ratio is about the same. Let's see that. Hope it's not blurry. Uh, Let me see. So violent crime is about average. Murder is below. Robbery is a little bit below. Then rest of Nebraska. The aggravated assault is kind of high, a little bit above in USA. Burglary is a little bit higher on burglary. Car theft, a little bit below. Larceny, a little bit higher in this city. Now the population there, would you have 224,692 people. That's white. 4.3% is 11,976 is black. American Indian is 0.5%, 1,320. Asian is 1.7%. And the Hispanic population is 20,791% at 7.4. So there's more Hispanic. It's the second growth highest people behind the white population. The next is the Asian population outpaces the black population by 13.63%, and the black population 11,009. So they have a lot of a big population. Overall, the white population is 80% compared to the U.S. is 61%, which is in Nebraska is 70.9.4%. African Americans 4.3%, 4.6%, and 12.3% overall in America. American Indian, this is what the stats say. Asians 4.47%, 2.3%, 5.5%. Hawaiian 0.1, is only 1%. Not very big of a Hawaiian. Hispanic is 7.4% in Nebraska, 10.6%. Vacant and 10.7% in Nebraska, and overall 7.8% in the U.S. of A. So there's more Hispanics in the U.S. of A compared with the stats the same than the other races behind white people. All right then, ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the conclusions of the 10 whitest cities in America. That's what they called it, and the photos and everything. And again, I made this. That means that whoever owns a lot of land out there is predominantly whatever race. When it comes down to race of people, is predominantly white. So I don't understand why would someone make that suggestion. But that's what it is. Here it is, the 10 whitest cities in America for 2020. Science and data determine the whitest largest city in the U.S. based on recent census data. This is from called Rollsnacks website. This is called Rollsnacks. So this is where I got it from. That's it. But here's the cities. Tell you what cheapest cities. Those dangerous cities in America, or mid-sized crime in cities, and again, and right here, Springfield, Missouri, 8.5%. This is another version of it. And Billings, Montana. Let me see. Okay. Fargo, North Dakota. 8.3%. 6 is white. Idaho. 8.2%. 7% is white. Cedar Rapids, Iowa. 8.2.3. population is at 80%, 0.3%. That's in Scottsdale, Arizona, in every state. So that tells you that the majority of, when it comes to ethnic population, white people still outnumber in the major cities throughout the Midwest and Western states. 280,000, and it's where the population is 80%. And this is in Lincoln. This was actually a website, and it tells you more that how they measure people according to Caucasian, and it tells you more information about Springfield and backing up the cities in Fort Collins, and then you show them what Evansville, Indiana. There's a whole list. Here's the rest of the list that they had throughout the whole United States, and they still at a higher percentage rate than any other people in the country. The white population in every city, they got to be a whole. This is the data. They list by cities, by state, everything. Each state, it lets you know the white population. So I don't understand these white nationalists that go there. They was worried about the white race, whatever. The practically majority is in. It tells you what cities and states where majority. It doesn't say mixed. They're predominantly white. They're not mixed with any other race, and they still dominate the race. The dominance there. And here's the article about it. And someone said white pride said they're amazing. The white states have the least crime. This is what they said. So again,
Now, I'm going to let you hear his video. So that was response to a video I did about a couple years ago. Because somebody was like, oh my God,
The American Cancer Society's Hope Lodge communities offer a free home away
to a black
A
family.
few months ago, I finally caved to
Watch
public
this.
pressure. Normally, I avoid race-related videos on this channel, but I kept getting requests. I always avoided the subject because I just didn't want the comment section to be ablaze with racist comments. People pointed out that it's not just races that want to know the demographics of a location. People of different races like to know where to live so they can be near types of restaurants they like, stores, and different festivals, things like that. To me, that argument made sense, so a few months back we did a video on the most Asian states in the US, and then later on we did the most Hispanic states. Today we are doing the whitest states. I mean, it's kind of only fair. We're going to look at the percentage of the population that is considered white. We'll also look at what European people settled in that area first, and this is all according to the US Census. And now, a brief overview. Around 1565, the Spanish showed up in St. Augustine, Florida. And of course, the Mayflower showed up on November 11th, 1620. Now, there's a whole bunch of other stories with explorers and Russians in Alaska and all that other good stuff, but the two main things in the history book of North American colonization is the Mayflower and then the Spanish down in St. Augustine. Whatever the case may be, or the story may be, white people took over, and what is now the United States has been predominantly white ever since. Today we're going to look at 10 states whose percentages haven't changed much since the 1700s. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Nebraska. Nebraska is extremely white, and they start our list off. By the 1870s, Nebraska's European immigrant population was at its peak, and about 25% of the state's residents were born in a foreign country. Danes, Swedes, Irish, Germans, and Czechs figured predominantly among the early newcomers to Nebraska. If you need more proof that Nebraska is extremely white, take this into consideration. The number one male name in Nebraska is Oliver, followed by Henry and Liam. Number 4 is Theodore. 88.1% of Nebraska's population is white. Number 9, Montana. Coming in strong with the blonde-haired, blue-eyes crowd, you have Montana. Originally, Italians and Germans settled in Fergus and Park counties. Many Germans came from North Dakota and Canada, and a lot of the cattlemen that landed in Montana were mostly English and Scottish. Now, the dynamic back then was the English and the Scottish basically worked the cattle, but the owners were typically German. Now, they did have sheepmen. Sheepmen normally weren't okay back in the day. The cattle guys didn't really like them. But there were a lot of them in Montana, and they were from the British Isles. That's how Montana became the Montana we know today. 88.9% of Montana's population is white. Number 8, Utah. If you didn't know Utah was mostly white, you've never been in a Mormon temple. Mormons make up about 70% of the Utah population, and they have a history of being so white they think Malcolm X is a member of the X-Men. In the early days, Spanish explorers and French-Canadian, British, and Canadian fur traders had briefly stomped around Utah before 1847. But it was that year that the Mormon immigrants from Britain, Canada, Denmark, and Norway were part of the Mormon exodus from Illinois and became the first non-Native Americans to settle in the future Beehive State. 90.6% of Utah's population is considered white. Number 7, Iowa. If you didn't know Iowa's very white, you've never been to a county fair in Iowa. Before I start doing the research for this video, I honestly thought it was going to be number 1. I've been to Iowa a few times, and it is probably the whitest state I've ever seen. At least that was my opinion. The numbers don't match up with my opinion. So here they are at number 7. Back in the early days, like the 1840s, a majority of the settlers that came to Iowa came from the Scandinavian countries. Some were Dutch, German, Irish, Scots, and Welsh. New Englanders started showing up that same time, along with Quakers in 1941, and then the Mormons started showing up around 1846. Yes, Iowa has a good-sized population of Mormons as well. Nothing near what Utah has, but it's up there. These days, 90.6% of Iowa's population is considered white. Number 6, Wyoming. There were 6 groups that made up the early immigrant settlers of Wyoming. British, the Germans, Italians, Basque, and the Greeks showed up here. In 1870, immigrants from the British Isles represented about 1/5 of Wyoming's territorial population and over 1/2 the foreign-born population. So the Brits came in strong. In the last few decades, Wyoming's become very popular with just about everyone. But these days, 92.5% of their population are identified as white. Number 5, Idaho.
He covered the states. I covered the city. But he covered the states.
It's a risk, and I don't know.
As white. Number 5, Idaho. Idaho has quite the reputation for being very white. It has always been that way. In the late 19th and early 20th century, a large majority of the settlers were English, many before statehood. This seemed like a really great place to them because there wasn't much government. Back in those days, most of the English from jolly old England were being taxed to death, and a place with next to no government seemed like a great place to live. 93% of Idaho's population is identified as white. Number 4, New Hampshire. This is another state that should be no surprise to anyone that's ever been to New Hampshire. If you live there, you already know. I mean, we're talking about a state where the people consider Taco Bell diversity. New Hampshire being part of New England obviously goes back to the colonial days. And at the time, it was mostly British residents in the area that would eventually become New Hampshire. But in 1799, they started being joined there by a lot of Scottish and Irish immigrants. What's strange is for a long time, they had a lot of French Canadians living in New Hampshire, and sometimes you could find little bits and pieces of that culture in New Hampshire. They came down for the textile mills from Quebec, and a lot of them stayed back in the day. These days, 93.1% of New Hampshire's population is considered white. Number 3, West Virginia. West Virginia's kind of strange. I thought they would be a little bit higher as in the percentage because unlike most cities in the United States, West Virginia cities really don't have a lot of diversity. And if you look outside the cities in some of the rural areas, the mountains and the hollers especially, there is like zero diversity. So I'm actually a little surprised they're number 3 on this list. The settlement of present-day West Virginia began in the mid-1700s when Scottish, Irish, and German settlers from Pennsylvania came to the area that is now Berkeley and Greenbrier counties. The Scottish and Irish cultures really soaked into the West Virginia land. A lot of the folk music in this part of the country is heavy with Scottish and Irish folk influence. These days, 93.5% of West Virginia's population is identified as white. Number 2, Vermont. Remember everything I said about New Hampshire? Well, it's the same in Vermont. It always seems to be that way. I mean, they're right next to each other, and they always seem to show up really close on lists. You look at their crime stats, you look at their school grades, their economies, they're always right next to each other on whatever stat we're looking at. Like New Hampshire, the place was settled with the English, the Irish, and the Scottish eventually, and they also had a fair share of people coming down from Quebec, the French Canadians. These days, 94.2% of Vermont's population is identified as white. Alright, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There's a link down below. There's also a link for Home and Money, which if you're moving to another state, another city, they're a great website to help you get in touch with a realtor in that area you're moving to. Alright, on to number 1. And number 1, Maine. Look at that. New England has 3 states on the top 4 on this list. And if you've ever been to New England, you probably are not surprised at all, and especially when it comes to Maine. If you look at Maine's largest city, which is Portland, first of all, they have less than 70,000 residents. The entire metro area has about 556,000. But if you look at the city of Portland, Maine, their white population is 91.27%. That is very high for a city. Granted, this isn't some urban sprawl or anything like that. It's still a city. If you take a look at the other Portland across the country in Oregon, their white population is about 76%. Side note, Oregon almost made this list. It comes in like number 14.
Whoa.
Portland, Oregon's obviously a lot bigger, but still, it's an interesting comparison. The Pine Tree State has a population that is 94.4% white. Alright, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some...
So what do you think? So really, I come to the conclusion that ain't no really necessarily you can separate that way. And if you want them kind of people, and if you're white that feel that all these other races are coming at you, you can move to any of the cities and states I just mentioned. I mentioned the cities, he mentioned the states. So, and there's people that execute their prejudice. These are the people that execute. Now, not everybody, these are people who got that prejudice in them. Some of the people that got that prejudice, and they always, oh my goodness, it's like, soon as, black people, one of the people, we ask for land, whatever, that's what we should have. Where you got most population, you see 93% is white. So when black people say we want our own land, we want our own stuff, and we want basically one own town, ain't no difference from what most Americans is. And that's how, and the majority of town is the people that look like that. So let's say somebody Ukraine or Russia, they probably fit right in out there, because like it's like everybody blonde hair, brown hair, blue eyes, green eyes, whatever. You'll fit right in out there. So I don't understand why we're racist in this country. I don't understand that. It's like, oh my God, these other people, they still gonna keep it white. And some of your politicians in Washington D.C. and your state still keep it white. Trust me. Because you know why? I'm going to finish off with just a short video.
There are a lot of big mysteries that get us up in the
Because you know where this white nationalist stuff comes
What's the
from?
origin of the
That's why I said, why
There was, after
why
all,
you
the
got
Big
attacked
Bang.
other groups of
What
people,
created the
even
Big
if they of a different religion, when you
Where this
dominate the
thing
majority?
starts, where does it go?
That don't make no
Where is
sense.
the data? What do we know now?
How come there's matter in the
You don't
universe?
need to come into a town
How
where
is
it's claimed.
technology changing who we
You
are?
know?
What is character?
To look at that study? Probably not many. Okay? This also hits at talking point number 1. Biology is destiny. This fits the formula of giving the uncomfortable truth that is a threat to the elites, or in this case, they. Who are they, by the way? I've always wanted to know who they were. Anyway, this also hits talking point number 1. Biology is destiny. Talking about, quote, third worlders. And talking point number 4. Whites are being exploited. Oof. This one is especially horrendous. Talking point number 4. Whites are being exploited. Talking point number 6. The Jews are to blame. And a bunch of stuff about IQ and marks. And there's the giving of the uncomfortable truth that is a threat to the elites. So here is a picture of the mayor of the London borough of Camden. She is the first black mayor of Camden, and no, is not a supremacist of any kind. What I particularly found fascinating about this one is that the meme implies she needs to be deported back home. Well, I guess deport her to Camden, then, since she's lived there her whole life? There are many, many more examples I found online, but at this point, I'm just getting worn out by all the fear and hate. So let's just wrap this up. The bottom line is the Great Replacement Theory is still a big movement because its proponents have done well to play on the natural fears people have of economic and social instability and just change in general. In case you haven't noticed, things haven't been all peachy for the majority of us lately. The world has plenty of problems. Often, it's easier for us to just place blame on certain groups, and groups that are less like us are easy targets. So what can you do in response to Great Replacement Theory manipulation? Number 1, probe the point. Does the content use one of these common talking points that are not backed by evidence? Number 2, fish for flags. Are there any red flags present, like regular mentions of IQ, use of words like invasion and shocking images? Number 3, resist the rhetoric. Is there use of a rhetorical strategy, like limited framing, reference to a mysterious elitist majority they, or use of logical fallacies? And number 4, mind the meme. Remember that memes are easy to share but difficult to fact check. Make sure to reverse image search to understand a picture's true context, and do your own research before you share a meme yourself. These are some small steps you can take to make sure that you don't fall for this messaging, and in general, make society a safer and more peaceful place for all of us. Speaking of all of us, we can't be replaced because humans reproduce. We just make more humans. Let's end this video with a thought experiment. Imagine if you met someone from a foreign country who looked a lot different than you. They had a different religion than you. They liked different foods and music than you. Heck, they didn't even speak your language. But you fell in love with them anyway, and you both got married and had kids and lived happily ever after. Wait, about your future kids. You'd love them too, wouldn't you? They can't replace us because they are us. Don't be fooled. Human differences are really small, so we don't have to fear each other. Instead, let's just get to know each other.
I couldn't say it better yet than myself. I could not say that better yet. And people use fear and analogy to do that. And that's what America had a history of doing. That's why we had separate neighborhoods, segregation in our neighborhoods, because that's what they use the Great Replacement Theory. This goes back to America since probably close to 400 years. So that's why there was so much violence and so much degradation among different groups of people. You know, Hispanics, Asians, well, mainly blacks, and Native Americans, some Native American Indian groups. But so these people that still, so that's why some of these, you have a segment of these people still want their town like that. There's areas in this country they were raised like that, and they still fear, like he was just addressing. And it's the truth. So basically what he said, show you stats and research. So, and then do your own research, and really, if a person feel that way, and I might do one where it's mostly black. If you black, there's areas of the country you can live at, or another race you can, if that's the way you feel, and you feel uncomfortable with other groups of people because you let the media paint the picture, and you believe in the picture what they paint. And so that was purposely me making this video, but it was based on a video that came out years ago where 19 black families who hardworking, college educated, want their own town, and they made them feel guilty of having something that not most people have their own land and have their own town. They got their own, and they choose to separate. They choose to live apart, because 90% of the states and counties and cities I showed you, that's the way it is. People live. There's probably the people that live there, but they're not a high percentage of people, and so that's probably why they want to get there. So your chances of seeing someone of a different race among these states, they're not gonna flock out there. They're not gonna go to Idaho. They're not gonna go to Montana. They're not gonna go to Wyoming. They're not going. Some only go to New Hampshire. So if you want them kind of people that think that, oh my God, the race is blending out, then I suggest you go one of them states. If you're white, if you're black, go. There's some places in the South. So I hope this was a very interesting lesson, and it's proven on stats, states, county, population, job growth, crime. Is the information is there, and basically, there's no point in having prejudice. Basically, there's no point being prejudiced against somebody, and so I prefer to live out here, and people respect that. You're like, I don't understand. That's the way they are. There's some people that are black, prefer to be around black. There's some white people be around white, they don't white. They don't say it, but that's just the way it is. It's just come out that way. That's who they grew up with, who they associate with. Sometimes TV and environment and what they're used to, that's the environment. And so it is what it is. Now some people, it don't bother, like people, whatever. And I didn't make this for all people. This video was to certain people who it is later, when you get down to the nitty gritty among people, they let it out about these different groups of people. They start forming opinions about these different groups of people. So my saying, if you feel that insecure, why be around the people who you feel insecure about, who you think afraid or you feel intellectually inferior to because of physical or whatever. So you could there's no need to attack another group of people, mock them and make fun of them. There's no need for that. Because what did they do to you? I mean, you have a choice. So I don't even see why there's a white nationalist, a Klan. What are you talking about? When they have all the land and just be chill. What their church and their religion or whatever. And believe me, the people, they ain't trying to bring that stuff out. There's some people, and if you don't like it, there's another county, there's another state, there's another town. You can, and what it's predominantly them. And you see the states, Iowa, and all some of the Nebraska towns, and all the different towns. They still like that. We got some places in Ohio like that. In outskirts of Columbus and Cleveland and Cincinnati, it's still predominant. All the way down to southwest, eastern and southwest Ohio, it's still predominantly white. Facts. All the way to the Kentucky border, all the way into West Virginia, all the way into Indiana, it's predominantly white. So, white people are not going to be replaced. Trust me, they're not going to be replaced. And they got their own towns, their own counties. Even down where was the flood at in Kentucky, predominantly, them towns is predominantly Appalachian, but they're white. That's fact. In West Virginia, it's the truth. Most black people ain't coming through there, and other people ain't gonna come through there. So that's the ones who got that mindset. That's your zone. Fact. So if unless you come to the city, unless you come into a bigger city where it's integrated with all different people, then you stay down there where you at. And if you don't like the town, there's another town that probably got job and opportunity. But you ain't got to hate on us or other groups of people just to make your point across. You ain't got to make up insecurity and jump on other people just to make your point across. And these are directed to the people who got that mindset. Because we ain't around you like that. And some of us don't want to be around you like that. If that's the way you think, that's the way you feel. That's the truth. See, America, it's a much land for America it is. That's why I said I don't understand why there's any prejudice when it comes to majority, because the majority are the people. And it's like they believe in somebody bringing this race replacement to town. Clearly, they haven't did the stats. Because if they feel like that, and it's always going to be like that, going to be majority. So why you don't have to worry about how many people they bring, because they're not going to live out in them towns, them states. Trust me, they're not going out there. One thing in Idaho and Wyoming, it's too damn cold out there. Shit, in the winter, ain't nobody want to deal with that, and there's lack of opportunities, unless you in the agriculture or something like that, and they Paul Bunyan or whatever kind of hillbilly festivals out there. I mean, it's all that's all the help out there. You might find one or two people, a Hispanic or a black person that's been there since parents been there since the slaves. But ain't that many coming out there. Trust me. So my name is James. I hope you find this enlightening, and to those, like I said, this video didn't apply to everybody, but it applied for the people who see here and they see here when it comes to race and they come to inferiority. It's to a certain segment of people who think like that. That's what this video is for. So till next time, you guys take it easy, be blessed, and hope you like the video. Till next time, take the information and run with it. Take care.